What is going on, guys? JK, and today we've got a trapcode particular tutorial inside of After Effects. I'm going to be creating something like this, along with talking through the basics. So we're going to go to composition, new composition, 30 frames a second, 10 seconds long, high 853 by 480. Hit OK, and first off what we're going to do is create a new solid for our particular to be based. Call it particular. Okay, and search it in the effects and presets particular. Now it is a third party plugin, so you do have to buy it, but it is worth it. It's a very powerful particle generator. So you can see straight away that we start with no particles, and then they start appearing from one center point, which is, if we go into the emitter tab, just change that to full, emitter type point. So we want to change this, we're going to change it to box. And it looks as though they're still emitting from a box, but they're not. They're emitting from a very small box. It looks as though they're emitting from a point, sorry, but they're not. They're emitting from a very small box. To change this, just go down to emitter size, drag, and we can change the Z position as well, because it is a 3D plugin. It works in 3D space. So now we've got that bit covered. Oh, we can also change the particles a second as well. Now we've got that bit covered, we're coming on to an important part, which is the difference between it starting straight away and fading in, basically. This is the pre-run down here under emission extras. Just drag that to 100 to start it from scratch. So now we've covered the emitter tab, we're going to go to particle, and we can actually change the particle type, but we'll get onto that in a minute. What we can also do is change the sphere feather, and I'm going to go for a space look. So what we're going to do is actually change the sphere feather from 50 to 10, so there's not as much feather and it just looks a little bit more realistic. But for a space theme, it doesn't actually look very good at all. It's just there's too many particles, they're too big. So we're going to go to size and change it to 3. So you can change the size, change the feather, change the type, all that good stuff. Go to change the life of the particles. Now another thing is that you can see that they start to, when they reach their death, they just go. There's no smoothness to it. It's one frame, like this particle here, it just goes like that. We want to change that, so we're going to go to opacity over life, and we can just like draw on, but we want to do it properly. So what we're going to do is, don't press Ctrl Z, hit this, and that's just saying at birth they're full, at death they're nothing. Do that for size over life as well. So now we get more smooth animation, and it's starting to look a little like a space theme. Now change the colour, so just say blue for now. And what we can also do is change the speed at which they are moving. So we'll go to emitter again, change the velocity, let's say to 20, velocity from motion to 5. So it just slows the particles down a little. Now with trapcode particle we can also create clouds, smoke. So to do this we'll just hit Ctrl D, and we'll go down to the particle tab and hit cloudlet, and you can see there's not much change, but if we increase the size we're going to get these like splodges, and they've got like smooth edges, there's no feathering on them hardly, so just increase the feather full and you'll get this nice effect here, but it still doesn't look like cloud. So what we're going to do is actually change the opacity to 5. I would usually use a value lower than that, but you know, it's for tutorial purposes so you can see it better. Now another thing we notice is a problem, that where the clouds are there's particles, where the black is there's no particles, so the particles are actually following the clouds. So to change this what we're going to do is go down to physics, go into the air tab, go to turbulence field, and just increase the effect position, and it's just going to basically move the position. So now we've got some particles on the clouds, some off. So that's a basic overview of particular. So now what we're going to do is actually use particular for audio reaction. So I've deleted them two. We're going to go to project, import this audio file. To import, right click, import file, drag it in, and we've got wavelength on this audio, but we can't do anything with it because it's an audio file. So we need to convert it to keyframes. So we're going to right click, keyframe assistant, convert audio to keyframes. So now when we drag along, well, it's creating a null object, sorry. And when we drag along, you can see that we've got values here that are changing. We're going to delete left and right channel to simplify what we're going to do. But yeah, we've got values, but they're not changing, and that's because it's a slider value, not position. So what we're going to do to get this into a position value is hold shift, hit P, and we've got position. I'm going to alt click position to insert an expression, which we're not actually going to do yet. I'm going to get this little pick whip and drag to slider, and it's going to write an expression for us. Now I'll just click away and show you in the top left, what's happening. It's moving quite slightly along the X and Y, and what this expression has actually done is, because this slider value, which is our original, is a single value, it's got one value, and the position has got more than one, it's got two, it's an array. We need to get basically the same data from this onto these. So to do it, it creates a variable. Now, you don't have to worry about what it all means, but basically it's saying that temp, which could be anything, is equal to the effect of this for these two values. So if we want, it's hard to explain, but it's easy, it just depends. So basically temp is like this position value, so this position is equal to the effect of this for these two. But we want to move it back into the middle of our composition first. That's what we first want to do. So to do this, we're going to click in the expression, go just before this bracket and type value plus. And expressions is just maths a lot of the time. So if you click away, it's added the value of this, which is 426.5 to 40, to this effect. So it's in the composition part where we want it to be. Now another thing is it's moving X and Y, and we just want it moving on the Y, so we're going to click in the expression again and just change the X to 0. So once it's changed to 0, we'll see there's only movement on the Y. Another problem we've got is that it's moving it only a little bit, and it wouldn't affect the visuals much. So to change this, we're going to alt click on the slider and type an expression. Just follow along and I'll explain in a minute. Linear, open parentheses, value, comma 0, comma 100, comma 0, comma 500, and end parentheses. Now you can see it's moving a lot more, and what this is saying is linearly change the value. So if the value is 0, keep it at 0. So if the value is 0, basically just keep it at 0, self-explanatory. But if the value is 100, change it to 500. So it's basically saying multiply the value by 5. So if you do 5 by 0, you get 0. If you do 5 by 10, you get 50. So that's what that expression is saying, and it moves it a lot more. So now we need to get the visuals in. So what we're going to do is Control Y to create a new solid, that's a keyboard shortcut, or Command Y on the Mac, and then just hit OK, and we'll drag particulate in. We should have already have it typed up from earlier, and drag it in. You'll see we've got the particles emitting. We don't want this, so we're going to go to the emitter, change the velocity to 0, velocity from motion to 0, and velocity random to 0. And there's no movement whatsoever, it's not doing anything. So what we need to do is actually get the position of this to move according to this. So alt click on the position, Z, get the pick whip, which is this bit here, as I mentioned before, and drag it down to the slider value, and it creates an expression that we don't need to worry about. It's just perfect for us. And you can see you might be able to see the slight bit of movement, but not much. So what we are then going to do is get a new camera, because it's moving in Z space, not 2D. So we'll call this main camera, and get our little orbit tool, which is here, and just move around. And you can see, because we're now in 3D space, looking on the Z, not directly on the Z, but we are looking partly on the Z axis. We can see some movement, but nothing's really happening. So to change this, we're going to go velocity from motion. Let's put this to 20. And you can see that it's kicking out, as when the music beats, it'll kick out, or when there's any music movement, it will kick out. You won't be able to hear music because I'm recording. So yeah, we've got that. But what we want to do is, it's a bit boring because it's just going sideways. So we want to actually change how it moves. So we're going to go to the physics tab, go down to turbulence field in the air, and change the effect position, not size, sorry. I don't know why I clicked size. We'll change the effect size back down to 0. Effect position up as we did before with the clouds. And you can see that it moves it, and it actually moves pretty well to the music. One more problem is that we've actually got big gaps in between each of the spheres. So to change this, what we have to do is actually increase particles a second. We'll go 5,000. So now when this plays, we've got this cool animation with all moving particles. Now another thing is that it dies straight away on us. So to change this, we're going to go back to the particle as we did before. Go to the size over life, put it on this ramp, opacity over life to this ramp, and we get what we had before, where they fade out instead of actually just dying on us. And it's looking a lot nicer. If we want to increase the length of it again, we'll just go to velocity from motion and just increase it, and it will get longer. So yeah, we can also apply effects to this, like glow. Just find glow, drag it on, and it glows as it would. So yeah, it's been a fairly simple tutorial for Trapcode Particular, and there will be a more advanced one on its way. So yeah, stay tuned.